All right. So, last section, we're going to deal with conjugates in this last section. Conjugate pairs. Because this is already in terms of sines and cosines. This is not. If I would change the right side a little bit, I have 1 over sine of x plus 1 over 1 over sine of x. Okay, and if I multiply by my denominator of my denominator here really quick, I get sine of x over sine of x plus sine of x over, these cancel to be 1. So if I can get to 1 plus sine of x, then I should be good, right? See how this is a minus? And this is a plus? So I want to get this to a plus. So if I want to get to this to a plus, and the plus is on top, I got to think in my mind, conjugate pair. What's the conjugate pair with 1 minus sine of x? Well, it's 1 plus sine of x. Whatever you do to the denominator, you also have to do to the numerator. So I'm going to go 1 plus sine of x in the numerator. Now in the numerator, I'm not going to FOIL. I'm just going to leave it the way it is, as cosine squared of x times 1 plus sine of x. Because see how this is 1? I want to get to 1 plus sine of x. That's where I want to get to. So if I would FOIL, then I'd have to unfoil. I'd have to factor. And I don't want to go through all that. So I'm going to just leave them separated in the numerator. In my denominator, yeah, I'm going to FOIL that. What's 1 times 1? 1. Outers and inners and conjugate pairs always, always, always cancel. Sine times sine is sine squared of x. What's 1 minus sine squared? What's 1 minus sine squared? Cosine squared. Oh, looky there. They can just cancel. I'm at 1 plus sine of x. What am I going to do with 1 plus sine of x? Well, I have this cosecant on the bottom, so I'm going to put a 1 down here. I know that cosecant of x is 1 over sine, right? So I'm going to multiply my bottom by 1 over sine and my top by 1 over sine. So then what happens? Well, if I distribute, I get 1 over sine of x plus sine of x over sine of x, which is 1 over 1 over sine of x should equal cosecant of x plus 1 over cosecant of x. So 1 over sine of x is cosecant of x. Sine of x over sine of x is 1. 1 over sine of x is cosecant of x. And there we are. Conjugate pairs. That's where we're doing this section. We're going to have 3 problems with dealing with some conjugate pairs. Okay? When you see a plus sign in your denominator and a minus sign in your numerator, you got to think in your mind, ooh, that's going to be a conjugate pairs one. Okay? So let's start out by working with conjugate pairs. Cosine of x over cosine of x plus 1. I'm going to multiply that by cosine of x minus 1. Okay, so if I FOIL, I have cosine of x times cosine of x minus 1. I'm not going to distribute on the top. The bottom, I get cosine squared of x minus 1. Now, looking at my right side, where do I want to go with this? Well, secant I know is 1 over cosine of x. And tangent squared is sine squared of x over cosine squared of x. Right? So I want to get somewhere close to that. Want to get somewhere close to this with this. Now, what's cosine squared of x the same as? Or cosine squared of x minus 1 the same as? Sine squared of x. Somewhere there I want to get to in my denominator, right? Ooh, it would be, wouldn't it? I wonder if I made a mistake in this problem. We'll see if I made a mistake, because I might have made a sign error on to what we need to get to in the right-hand side. I'm pretty sure I probably did. Okay. Then I want sine squared over cosine squared, right? So I'm going to have to multiply by this 1 over cosine squared. So the whole top, I'm going to multiply by 1 over cosine squared. So I'm going to get cosine of x over cosine squared of x times cosine of x minus 1 all over negative sine squared of x over cosine squared of x. Now, a cosine and a cosine squared cancel. And then this becomes, and this should have been negative tangent squared all along. I screwed that one up, I guess. I think. No, that was right. It was right. It should have been negative, because that negative will come out of there yet. All right. So then what am I left with? Well, I'm left with cosine of x over cosine of x minus 1 over cosine of x over negative tangent squared of x. And when you run out of room, then you draw an arrow and you go like this and say, well, we're going to keep going. Cosine over cosine is what? 1 minus 1 over cosine is what? Secant of x over negative tangent squared of x equals secant of x minus 1 over tangent squared of x. So I'm really, really close, except for my signs are all backwards. So if I multiply the top and bottom by negative 1, if I multiply negative 1 times 1, it becomes negative 1. Negative 1 times secant of x is positive secant of x, right? So all I have to do on this one now is multiply both the top and the bottom by negative 1, and I get secant of x minus 1 over tangent squared of x equals secant of x minus 1 over tangent squared of x. Okay, let's do one more and call it good. I have 2 more problems written down, but we'll just do one and call it good and see how you guys do on these 3. All right. I want to end up with 1 plus cosine of x over cosine of x. The nice thing about this is in terms of sines and cosines. I don't have to mess with my right side. Just got to get my left side and the right side. See how my denominator has a minus sign, my numerator has a plus sign. So what am I going to think in my mind? I need to multiply by the conjugate. So right now, even before I change them into sines and cosines, which would make it a little more complicated, I'm just going to do conjugate of this right now. Trust me. I'm going to multiply the top and bottom by a secant of x plus the tangent of x. And see what happens. So, I get the secant of x plus the tangent of x on the top. On the bottom, I get secant squared of x minus tangent squared of x. Okay? Now, what's secant squared minus tangent squared? 1. So I get secant of x plus tangent of x equals 1 plus sine of x over cosine of x. This is 1 over cosine of x. This is sine of x over cosine of x. So I just combine the fraction. Okay? Now you're going to have one like this on your problems. This is the easiest problem that I can give you. Let me give you a hint. Okay? This looks like this, right? The plus sign's on the top, the minus sign's on the bottom. Should we multiply by conjugate here? No, because there's a plus sign on top, minus sign on the bottom. We're good. Don't have to do that. What do I have to do? Just multiply by the denominator of the denominator. Whoever whispered that, good job, because you were right on. Because this becomes 1, this becomes cosine, this becomes 1, this becomes cosine. I'm done, right? Look at that. Okay? All right. So what problems do you have? Well, you have 58, 61, and 63. 58, 61, and 63. Page 172. Last assignment on page 172. We've done A, B, C, D, E, F, G. This is assignment G, right? So that's like 7 assignments over this one section. Okay, there you go. You have